Wow, what a crazy comeback. This latest chapter of Black Clover was absolutely, positively top tier and one of the best the series has ever seen. My goodness. Kicking things off to follow the conclusion of their combined efforts against the late King of Devils, Lucifero, Noct would begin to guide Yuno elsewhere as, according to him, there was someone Yuno needed to meet. And after traveling by way of Noct's shadow magic, Yuno would finally meet her, the Queen Consort of the Spade Kingdom, Ciel Grinberial, Yuno's mother, which is such a crazy union on its own, but man, compared to the rest of this chapter, is actually minor. Yuno would immediately recognize his mother from the memories that had flooded into his mind previously. Here, she would smile with tears in her eyes, happy to know that her boy was safe, and had turned out to be such a wonderful person. It wouldn't be long before she rushed towards him and gave him a big ol' hug. Albert and Ralph would then call out to Yuno, questioning if he intended on returning to the Spade Kingdom, advocating that their country would need his strength going forward. And to this, Yuno would remain stone-faced as Sylph was ever so excited by the prospect of Yuno becoming a king. And see, this right here is why I have such a hard time connecting to Yuno as a character. This man just met his mother for the very first time, with the people of his birth country practically begging him to stay with them in this time of need, and his expression is pretty much just blank. Not a tear, nothing. He's just really strange to me. Like, I can understand this in the general sense, but this is the first time you're meeting your mom, what the heck? His mother would then say that there were a ton of things that they needed to discuss, understanding that with everything being so sudden, it must be difficult for him to accept. But again, at least facially, Yuno didn't look pressed at all. As they bowed down to him, he would state that the future is still unsure. However, he already had long-standing promises to keep first. Vows to his family in the Clover Kingdom, to his friends, and to his rival, Asta. As elsewhere, we would have Asta sitting on what remained of the clock tower, which is major for later, mind you, as he thanked Libe, much to the devil's confusion. Asta would then thank him because through his brother's memories, he was able to see his mother for the very first time. So yeah, he does fully recognize Richita to be his own mother, if that wasn't already clear. Asta would furthermore express that he never held a grudge or anything over being abandoned, but just knowing that she did in fact love him made him really happy. Yet Libe felt like he was the one that needed to be thankful, as thanks to Asta, he was able to avenge Richita's death after all these years. And so it was his turn to make Asta's dream come true, as he smiled a big smile. And my goodness, is this thing adorable or what? Please sell a plush, I will buy it. Both Asta and Yuno were still very much intent on becoming the Wizard King, and even if Yuno does unsettle me, I do love these two shots of the characters a whole lot. Although I must say that having Yuno become the leading figure of the Clover Kingdom's magical pursuits and such, only to then have him transfer to a foreign power is really silly to me. But you know what's not silly? Subscribing to Plot Armor with notifications on. Asta knew that before he could hope to become the Wizard King, he would need to go back home and clear Libe's name, as despite being a devil, he was certainly a good person. Someone who actually helped save the entire world. And he really wanted to prove it to Kira of the Magic Council, who Libe would admit to hating. As we would then ominously receive a shot of that broken clock tower's face, foreboding what was to come, as back in the Clover Kingdom, of all people, we would have Kira approaching elsewhere. And in this march, he had an especially chilling expression on his face, a look of restrained anguish and emptiness. From which point we would have a look at Wizard King Julius as he concluded a call with Marx. Here, Julius was certainly grateful for the outcome of the Spade Kingdom battle. However, he could not shake the feeling that something was still amiss. He'd call into question the sudden sense of uneasiness he had experienced previously, as he felt something major was on the verge of emergence. What coincidentally aligned with the rise of Lucifero from the depths of the underworld, but there was certainly more to it. In fact, he had felt this sensation back when he attempted to take down the ancient demon that threatened the kingdom as well. A task which would ultimately need to be left in the hands of Asta and his Devil Union mode. And as he pondered this, a knock would be heard at the door, and to enter would be Kira. The councilman apparently had something rather pressing to discuss. He'd admit that ever since the court trial against Asta, he had been doing his due diligence and researching the existence of devil kind, furthermore gathering whatever intel he had in regards to the families of devil hosts within the Clover Kingdom, as he would subsequently place a number of papers onto the Wizard King's desk. Documents that dated back to over 20 years ago. Documents that, oddly enough, possessed no record nor mention of the supreme devil Megecula among the Clyphod devils, who ultimately ended up being the most compelling of them all, but that's neither here nor there. Kira would say that the underworld is said to have three rulers: Lucifero of gravity magic, Beelzebub of spatial magic, and lastly, Astaroth of time magic. He would speculate that maybe Megecula had replaced Astaroth, as for some reason or another, it seemed as though the Supreme Devil of Time had left the underworld. Meanwhile, the Wizard King was wordless. Kira would then say that perhaps it was merely a coincidence, but based on his research to date, there has only ever been one person in possession of magic that possesses the name of time in the entire world. Of course, referring to the Wizard King himself. All the while, being mentally uncertain of his findings and hopeful that he was incorrect. Hopeful that the existence of the devil that had been dwelling in their country had nothing to do with the Wizard King. But in his reflection of his prior actions, the Wizard King realized the truth. What unbeknownst to him was the true reason for his particular fascination with the dark magic of Yami and the world tree magic of William, the two sacrificial catalysts for the unleashing of the underworld devils, as well as his fascination and understanding in regards to the notion of two souls of differing races residing in a single body. Kira was unfortunately absolutely right, as we would receive the ever-tragic expression of Wizard King Julius as he realized it was him. As at the same time, Kira's worst fears had been realized, as Julius would suddenly rise up from his chair and call out to him, but before he could complete a sentence, something began to change, as the grimoire of the Wizard King would suddenly be restored to its full power. The now physically mature presence would take the place of the Wizard King and place his finger on Kira, who would only just managed to take out his magic scale, but had now been paused, as incredibly, the once coverless grimoire of Wizard King Julius would now reveal its cover. What was an especially intricate design indeed, with a center insignia that possessed the iconography of all the major kingdoms: Diamond, Heart, Spade, and Clover. To make things even crazier, to suddenly arrive from the window would be the ever mysterious second layer devil, Adramelech, who now clutched onto the devilish heart of the late Lucifero, expressing that everything had gone according to the man's plan. This man being Lucius Zogratis, the eldest brother of the Dark Triad, as we would then receive the proper reveal of his ever sinister face, as he would happily admit the time was up. Now this is all kinds of crazy. Truly, this was for a very long time one of the biggest theories in the Black Clover community, so to see it realized in such a way was absolutely fantastic. Sometimes things can be awaited and predicted by fans for a long stretch of time, therefore making the series feel a little too predictable, but no, this is very different. This is something that is just spectacular. That being said, I will be the one to say it does not at all make up for the mediocrity that was the Spade Kingdom invasion arc. But like I said previously, I am very excited for what is to come beyond it, and this elevated that enthusiasm 1,000-fold. What will apparently be the final act of the story. So in some time, presumably in about 2 years or so from now, Black Clover will be officially coming to a close. Wow, bombshells on bombshells. There is truly so much to be discussed with all this that it would feel like a disservice to try and fit it all into one video. So if you'd like more discussions on all of this and what is to come with the remainder of the Black Clover story, let us know in the comments below and by dropping a like. But I will say that Lucius Zogratis is an actual monster. To have been so calculated in his proceedings means that he was absolutely more than willing to sacrifice the lives of his 3 siblings without remorse. And considering that was a line crossed by Noct that made him regret everything he had ever done, just goes to show how demented this man has to be to do so willingly. And my goodness, do I love the notion of Asta and Yuno needing to take down the Wizard King to become the Wizard King. Very often in these shonen stories, the pinnacle seat is either vacant or given. Perhaps the Clover Kingdom will garner an interim Wizard King to take the place of Julius, but one way or another, it will require taking this guy down to truly assume the title. Guys, Black Clover has its Aizen. And I suppose in a way, this is the death that so many fans have been longing for, as Wizard King Julius is no more. He seemed to be his own person based on how he reacted to the news that he is the enemy, and with that, with him being overwritten, he is effectively dead. His time has concluded, he's done. And I will say that no matter what the case may be, I don't want him to come back because I want this to sting. I want this to sit on our hearts and really be impactful. And you know, Wizard King Julius was overpowered to begin with. Now Lucius has that power, lacks a moral compass, which was what actually compromised the Wizard King back in the Elf Invasion arc, has the power of a Supreme Devil, because I don't believe he himself is a Supreme Devil based on what Adramelech said regarding him as Lucius Zogratis as opposed to Astaroth. Presumably some sort of innate magic outside of time related to the body like that of his late siblings, and now, the heart of the King of Devils, Lucifero, which seems to have been his intended acquirement all along. Big Brain doesn't even begin to describe this stuff, and I love me a brilliant antagonist antagonist. And please, Tabata, I am begging you, do not degrade this man's intelligence for the sake of plot, as so many other mangaka do. Now, unfortunately, for as exciting as all these developments may be, Black Clover's manga will sadly be on hiatus for the next 3 months, as Tabata has been advised to get some much needed rest prior to the commencement of this final act. Final act, mind you, not to be confused with final arc, so there are going to be multiple of those. But yeah, this is some rest that I would say will allow him to bring his absolute best to close out this phenomenal series. Something I absolutely believe they should have extended to Horikoshi of My Hero Academia as well, as in the last 6 weeks alone, My Hero Academia has been on break 3 times. But hey, everyone is built differently. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.